Hey everyone, it's me, Ryan Turford. I'm in my house, and you're listening to the most PlayStation-rific podcast on the internet. It's the PlayStation Drive. I'm on a Discord call with my friend Matt Sawinski, and on our journey today, oh my god, Gamescom happened. There's so much news to talk about, even though we're not talking about Halo on this show, so jump on into the PlayStation Drive. Ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba.
Hello, Ryan. How you doing?
I am doing well. How are you doing on this lovely, lovely Thursday morning, good sir?
I'm good. I'm excited. We got a bunch of cool stuff to talk about. Gamescom, I thought was pretty great, and there's new Marvel stuff, Ryan. There's so much going on. We can talk about stuff.
Oh, please. No one cares about new Marvel stuff. Of course, though, this is the PlayStation Drive, where we talk about PlayStation all the time. Of course, if you like what we do and you want to support the show, there is a number of ways you can do that in this Cleaning in the Garage segment. Number one, you can support us on your podcast feed of choice by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts, or, of course, just subscribing to us on your podcast feed of choice, whether it's Google Play, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We are on all the things, so check us out there. Number two, you can actually check us out on YouTube. You can see our lovely, beautiful faces every single week. YouTube.com/YumiCapri is how you go do that. And it would be awesome if you, subscribe to the channel so you can be notified when we have new videos, or, like the video, comment for the algorithm's sake, as Sean would say, because they talked about this on the Nintendo Drive this week, where, every little thing helps. Even just writing a comment saying, I'm leaving this to help the algorithm, actually helps kind of the channel grow. Because when we do hit 500 subscribers, which we're getting dangerously close to, we will be giving away 1 year of Xbox Game Pass. So check us out there as well. We still have the contest running on the Xbox Drive as well. I know this is a PlayStation show, but on the Xbox Drive, we have the contest for the Xbox Space Jam controller, if you want to enter to win that, which Matt pointed out on last week's show. You don't need an Xbox in order to take advantage of that. So leave a comment, or not a comment, a review, a 5-star review on the Xbox Drive's feed on Apple Podcasts, and you'll be entered to win that when we hit 75 reviews. We're at like 70 reviews now since the last time we recorded, so we're getting pretty close. We hit that 75. Anyone who's left a review will be entered to win that controller. So definitely go ahead and do that. Last but not least, of course, you can throw a little tip in the old tip jar. Patreon.com/YumiCapri is how you do that. Now, while we jump into the playlist, Matt, and kind of transition to things, this is also kind of like picking up from Cleaning the Garage a little bit, because there is one other thing I want to promote that we did actually put on the podcast feed earlier this week. So my co-host Sean and I over on the Xbox Drive did a review of Psychonauts 2, which is out on PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 this week, the new game from Double Fine. We were sent codes by Xbox Canada. So again, huge shout out to them for providing us codes to review that game. We put it out on the podcast feed, and it's there for you to enjoy. Again, we put it on the PlayStation feed as well, just because, again, it's a game on PlayStation, and I know people on PlayStation are probably going to be wanting to check out this review, because we had a lot of great things to say about Psychonauts 2, let me tell you what. I talked about it last month when I did kind of my preview on the show, how I was really high on that game then, and I was someone that was kind of skeptical of Psychonauts 2. I didn't know if I was going to really like it before the preview, and I loved it, and the final game did not disappoint. It is one of the best games I've played this year. I had actually posted on Twitter kind of my top 3 games on Twitter, Matt, for the rest of the year, and it was one of them. So it was definitely in my top 3. So definitely, I highly recommend Psychonauts 2. Yes, I know it's a full price game on PlayStation, versus playing it on Game Pass, but Sean and I both agreed after kind of doing our review that it is worth the price of admission, like the full price for the game. So I definitely think it is worth checking out.
Quick question before we move on. For someone who's never experienced Psychonauts, should I play the first one before I jump to the second? I know that there's like a recap video at the beginning of the second game that kind of gives you a bit of info, but do you think it's worth it to go back to 1 before jumping into 2, or do you think people can go straight into 2 and then still have a fantastic time?
Unless you have an Xbox One X or Series X, don't go back and play the first game, because there's not a lot of great ways to play it. And honestly, the platforming just hasn't really aged that well from the first game. The story is still great from the first game. I think it's really good, but not just with the recap video, but a lot of the game itself really does a good job of explaining things from the first game if you missed it. So honestly, because Sean, when he did the review with me, he hadn't played the first game, and he still loved it anyways. So I really don't personally think you really need to play the first game first to really enjoy Psychonauts too. So, and especially I think that's good for it's good to know for anyone who's playing on PlayStation, because unless you have a PlayStation 3, because I don't think it ever come to PlayStation 4, because they did a backwards compatible PS2 version on PlayStation 3, but I don't think that version came to PlayStation 4. I might be mistaken, because I think that was one of the ones that kind of get left behind with PlayStation 3. So I don't think there's a really good way to play the first one for like a PlayStation owner, unless you want to pull out your PS2 copy, for example, or something like that and play that. But again, just stick with the new one. It's awesome. It explains everything. It's like the story from Rhombus of Ruin, the PlayStation VR game, also ties into it. But again, same with the first game. They explain everything you need to know from Rhombus of Ruin, especially that game in particular, because they know probably very little people played that one. So they did a very good job of, you know, explaining everything so it all made sense.
Awesome.
But yeah, so other than that, Matt, we also played Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut, which we just finished recording our review discussion, which is also coming out today as well. So on the podcast feed, you're essentially getting a double dip of PlayStation Drive this week, or I guess triple dip, because you had the Psychonauts review earlier in the week, you have the main show, and then Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut review discussion. So we won't really talk too much about it here, but go listen to our review. We kind of give our full thoughts, and again, the codes were provided to us by PlayStation Canada. So huge thank you to them, and huge shout out to them for being huge supporters of the show. I know actually they kind of listened to the show too. So I wanted to say huge thank you to PlayStation Canada for both checking out the PlayStation Drive and also, you know, supporting the show and being really awesome. So there you go.
Thank you.
All right. Let's slam the brakes on this conversation, Matt, because we got lots of stuff to talk about in breaking news, including, of course, kind of our big topic this week. Horizon Forbidden West finally has a release date, Matt. We finally got the release date during Opening Night Live with Jeff Keighley. It will officially launch on PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 on February 18th, 2022. In addition to that, right now on the PlayStation 5, Horizon Zero Dawn also received a 60 frames per second patch as well. So it'll be like this upgraded version, kind of like what they did with Ghost of Tsushima and Ratchet and Clank, the 2005 version. I haven't had a chance to check that out yet, but Matt, full thoughts. What do you think about this release date for Horizon? Do you think it's a good release date? What do you think?
I just cannot believe how incredibly packed January, February, and March already are of next year. Like, I went through a list last night, and very quickly, we have Elden Ring, Pokemon Legends Arceus, Rainbow Six Extraction, Horizon, Sifu, the Destiny expansion, Saints Row, Marvel Midnight Suns, and probably a lot more that we don't even know exist yet. I think that Horizon in this section is probably going to be fine. It's a PlayStation first-party title. It's a sequel to a much-beloved game. So I think it works. It's just, man, there's going to be so much competition, and so much competition not just for, you know, awards and stuff, but for time and money in that time frame. So like, I'm a little nervous that maybe some people might put Horizon on the back burner for one of the aforementioned games, but I think that anybody who's a huge Horizon fan is probably going to play it day one, regardless of when it comes out. It's just like, it would have had time to breathe this fall/winter, but obviously because of the whole situation, it's completely realistic that it was pushed out, and I completely support the decision, but it just stepped into a very, very crowded space, which I'm very curious to see how that's going to go. But what do you think, Ryan? So
I actually think this space works better for them than what they were originally trying to sell us, where it was going to come out at the end of this year. Because I don't know if you saw our spreadsheet, because we made a little internal spreadsheet to kind of track our reviews for this fall, but we had to make a giant spreadsheet for all of the releases this fall, because there's like 50 games coming up between now and the end of the year that are like of note, not just all the other games that I didn't put on the spreadsheet. So, I mean, there's already too many games this fall. So I actually think, even though February is already starting to become stacked, and we'll talk more about February in a little bit, I actually think that Horizon, like to your point, is going to really stand out, because it's a game that people have been really looking forward to ever since, you know, Horizon 1 came out. Like, I can't believe that when it comes out, it will essentially have been 5 years since Horizon Zero Dawn had come out, which is crazy to think about. So yeah, it's like been a really long time coming. But I know people have been waiting a long time for this one, so I definitely think, you know, if anything, it's going to gobble up some of the other games that are launching kind of the same week as it in February of next year. So yeah, I think it's going to be. I think it's actually a better time for it than launching alongside Halo and Dying Light and all the other games that are coming out this fall, especially kind of in the later part of this year. So I do think that this is actually a better window than it coming out this year anyways. So I think it's actually a good move. Plus, it just means that the game's going to be so much more polished, and hopefully it'll be, bug-free, really solid experience when we play it next year. So I'm very excited about that.
Do you think there's a chance it slips further? And I don't think it'll be a massive delay if there is another one. But we've seen Sony do stuff like even just a couple of weeks to a month. Do you think there's a chance it slips a little bit further than where it's already at?
I think it's a chance, but I don't know. I think Sony, for the most part, when they announce a release date, they're usually very confident that it's going to hit that date. I mean, for the most part, the only time I can think that comes to mind where they did announce the date, but they delayed it beyond that was when they announced the date for The Last of Us Part 2, where it was delayed a month. But that's the only thing that comes to mind where they gave a very specific date that they didn't hit it. So I'm pretty confident it's probably coming out on February 18th at this point. So I don't think it'll be delayed. Obviously, in the world we live in right now, Matt, anything's possible at this point. But I would be very, very surprised if it did get delayed beyond this point. And then as far as the patch for Horizon Zero Dawn, I know this is something people have been asking for forever, for Horizon Zero Dawn to get kind of the 60 frames per second patch on PS5, especially because it already ran at 60 frames per second on PC, and they just weren't really taking advantage of the PS5. But at this point, I've already got the Platinum Trophy and all the trophies for the Frozen Waste, so I don't really ever see myself going back to Horizon Zero Dawn. I don't even think I'm going to replay it before the new one comes out, especially, again, with how packed this fall is. There's just no way. But what do you think about this, Matt?
See, this is perfect for a person like me that started the original Horizon and then put it down and just never went back. I've always been looking for a reason to go back, and it's one of those things where it's I knew I was going to play it before we got into Forbidden West. So for me, this is perfect. Now, once I'm kind of through the kind of upcoming reviews that we're working on, it's definitely something I'm going to go back to and jump in with. At 60 frames per second, I think I've gotten a little bit spoiled with the PS5 with the likes of Spider-Man and now the Ghost Director's Cut. I'm getting very used to 60 frames per second, so this is a good opportunity for me to go back in and kind of restart that game proper and give it its fair shake.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that, this is the type of patch that's great for people like you, Matt, who just, didn't get a chance to finish it, especially because of the timing when the first one came out. Because as I had talked about in our Ghost of Tsushima review, I had played Horizon kind of at the end of that year because, Zelda was out at the time. And I'm sure a lot of people are probably in the same boat as you are, where they had started playing and then the Switch and Zelda came out and then they basically put it down, essentially. So
exactly what happened.
Yeah. So it's like I knew your story before you even told me what it was. But yeah, so Horizon Forbidden West, I'm very excited to play it. We didn't see anything new from it at Gamescom. They basically just came on and announced the release date and just called it a day. So I'm very excited to finally get a chance to play this next year. All right. Speaking of Gamescom opening night live, we should round up what happened at Opening Night Live with Jeff Keighley. Now, it was a 2-hour show, but for the most part, a lot of it, at least from what I found, was a lot of trailers and stuff for stuff we already knew about, and we didn't really get a lot of new information, or there were a lot of things that got announced but didn't have platforms at all. And when I looked for, before kind of putting this show together, I kind of scoured the internet to look for, platforms or release dates for some of the stuff that they announced there, and it's just nothing. So, for the most part, there might be more stuff that they announced that's coming to PlayStation, but we just don't actually know at this point. So we're not going to kind of dwell on it. So I kind of picked 6 stories from the showcase to kind of talk about here. And then for the most part, again, I know there's probably one you want to talk about that I kind of left off the list, Matt, from a certain Korean developer. But we'll get to that in a little bit after we kind of go through these ones first. So first up, Saints Row is getting a complete reboot called Saints Row. They just went back to basics with it, and it will launch on February 25th, 2022. So speaking of a busy February, Saints Row is getting a reboot. This is going to be a full reboot of the game. So it's completely different characters in a completely different city. The city looks to be like this new version of Las Vegas, but of course like a Saints Row version of Las Vegas, as you will. And the kind of the tone from the trailer just looked and sounded very Saints Row, where it was like this like kind of like gang war kind of thing going on, but it was also kind of goofy as well, with like very over the top weapons and stuff like that, which is everything I would come to expect from a Saints Row reboot. Of course, this is being done by Volition, who made all the Saints Row games, so it's not like it's a different developer or anything like that. As a Saints Row fan, as someone who really liked the Saints Row fans like games even more than something like Grand Theft Auto, like when a new Saints Row game gets announced, I'm usually more excited for that than when a new Grand Theft Auto game gets announced, just because I like the wackiness of the Saints Row games. I like the combat in Saints Row and how over the top it is. So I'm actually really excited to see what this game is going to look like and excited to play it, even though it's coming out the week after Horizon, which I don't know how I feel about that right now. But Matt, what do you think about this announcement?
Yeah, I'm stoked. I've never really been into Saints Row for no good reason. It's a series that I've always had my eye on. And when I saw this new one, I'm super in. It's been quite a while since we've gotten a game of this ilk, this kind of open world, sort of wacky GTA-esque type game. We haven't really had one in quite a while, and I'm ready for it. Like there was a time where that's pretty much all we had, and now there's been this long drought. I'm ready for this. I think it looks great. I was reading some articles and stuff afterwards with some people who saw the behind closed door demo, and people had great things to say. Apparently it looks great, the shooting looks great, the combat looks great, and there's like this management style thing as you're trying to like take over the city. So I'm super curious. The thing that got me was that Jeff kind of I've gotten too used to this whole here's a cinematic trailer and that's all you're gonna get. So when Jeff was like here's some gameplay, I was like yes, here we go. And I think my co-host on our show Destiny said it best, where she said she sneezed and when she looked back the trailer was over. It was literally 18 seconds of gameplay, and I was kind of like I just wanted to see more. Don't show me anything, or show me at least like a minute or two. So for me, I'm very excited to see more from it, and it's probably the most excited I've ever been for a Saints Row, because I'm feeling this kind of game right now, and I'm excited to see what it actually looks like.
But yeah, I mean, the crazy thing to your point, Matt, is like, first of all, it's been 8 years since the last Saints Row game. It feels less than that because we've had some re-releases of Saints Row 4 and 3 that have come out recently. But it's been 8 years since the last proper Saints Row game came out, and it's been almost 10 years since a Grand Theft Auto game came out. So at this point, like this type of genre is very much wide open right now for someone to come in with a game, and the structure that we kind of heard about with there's three kind of rival gangs, and they're all kind of vying for territory, and you're kind of taking them down one at a time. That's classic Saints Row to a T, where like that was what you did in all the previous Saints Row games. So I'm really excited about this one, and I think it sounds promising. So I'm very excited to see what the game actually looks like beyond the 18 seconds or however long that trailer was, which I'm hesitant to even call it a trailer. It was just bits of video just thrown together. But Matt, this is probably your most hyped thing. So Marvel's Midnight Suns was announced. It is an XCOM-like Marvel game from Firaxis, where you take down vampires with Marvel superheroes. It is coming in March of 2022. They didn't give an exact release date in March, just March 2022. You essentially are basically hiding vampires, and you have almost like the like Marvel superheroes dark team essentially going together. Plus, you have a brand new character that you mostly play as, and they talked about some like Persona-esque elements to it, where essentially you're like getting to know the other superheroes. But they did confirm though you can't romance any of them. You just become really good friends with them. That's what they said. But Matt, I know you're really hyped to talk about this one, so tell me about it.
Yeah, I'm super stoked on this. We've heard rumblings of a Firaxis-led Marvel game for a little while, and like I love tactics games. I haven't really gotten too much into XCOM, again for no good particular reason. I just haven't really played much of them. But them doing Marvel is totally like a match made in heaven for me. I am really curious to see the gameplay. They announced that there's going to be a gameplay trailer coming September 1st, which I mean it's right around the corner. So I'm not too disappointed we didn't actually see it yesterday, but I do wish we did. I have a little bit of issues with the roster, just because like what are Captain America, Iron Man, and Captain Marvel doing on this dark thing. Like the Midnight Suns is a dark Marvel team. So like with the likes of Doctor Strange and Moon Knight and Ghost Rider. So like, why not a couple different characters? But obviously they're doing it just for the namesake and to be like, oh, look, Captain America's there, which is fine. I mean, it's whatever. I'm hoping we're going to see a bit more of a roster. I'm hoping we're going to see a little bit more of the dark side. Nico from the Runaways being there is a fantastic addition. She's an awesome character, so I'm stoked she's there. I'm really curious to see what these Persona-like social structures are like, because they have said that like between missions, you'll hang out, get to know each other, you'll kind of be able to give them gifts and unlock abilities and make them stronger by spending time with them. So any sort of Persona-like social system, I'm totally there for. I can't romance Wolverine. That makes me upset, but that's okay. I'll roll with it. I'm super, super stoked for this one. I can't wait. I'm so happy that it's theoretically, just around the corner coming up in March. But I'm very, very excited to see what the gameplay is going to look like, because that's kind of the last thing that I'm a little bit not nervous about, but I just want to see it. I want to see what it looks like. I
mean, but again, with Firaxis behind it, I'm expecting it to be awesome, because I know that just how awesome like all the XCOM games are, and they do like turn-based strategy games really, really well. So unless there's some kind of weirdness to it, I'm actually really excited to see more as well. Plus, we finally have a game where you can play as Blade, where you kill vampires. Right. Finally, it's finally happening. I mean, we never really got a Blade game when the Blade movie came out. We just got Blade on UMD, and that was it. That was the closest we got to a Blade video game. So, I'm actually really excited about this one too. And I don't even really like superheroes, but I'm very intrigued by this, and I'm excited to check this one out. Well, next story. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge, which of course is the ode to the classic Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles arcade games, got a new trailer. They announced April O'Neil as a new character to the roster. However, as part of this trailer, they did confirm that the game has been delayed until sometime in 2022, which kind of bummed me out a little bit, because this one had been 2021 pretty much up until this moment. And .emu, the way they kind of work too, even though they just say 2022 and that could be anytime next year, they're the type of studio that usually likes to announce their release dates like a month before they come out, because they're usually digital only, and then usually they get a physical release usually down the line. So at that point, they usually just have a very fast turnaround from when they announce the release date to when it comes out. So we'll hear about this game again probably next year, because I don't think April is going to be the last character, because if you look kind of at the artwork, it looks like there might be room for one more character, maybe Casey Jones or someone else. But from the trailer though, like I'm even more stoked for the game, because it looks awesome, and April looks like she's going to be a really fun character to play as. Matt, did this trailer do anything for you?
Yeah, I'm hyped. Like, I'm getting more and more into this kind of genre of the side-scrolling beat-em-ups. My partner and I like to play these together, and TMNT is just awesome. I've always been a big fan of the series, so I'm stoked April's there. I'm curious to see if we're going to get anybody else. I do hope it's Casey. Splinter would be cool, but Casey's kind of my pick. I'm stoked. I'm stoked to play this when it's ready, because it looks awesome. Like, the animation looks so clean. The character design is so nice. It's so visually appealing, so I'm sure it's going to be fun to play. Yeah,
exactly. And I'm tempted to, like, mod my Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles arcade machine to have Shredder's Revenge somehow playable on it. Like I could like throw a little mini PC in there and map the arcade controls to it. Oh man,
that's so cool.
I might have to do that at some point. Next up, Jurassic World Evolution 2, which is kind of the sequel to the Jurassic Park kind of park building simulator that came out a few years ago. Got a release date. It's coming out on November 9th. Which is the same day as Forza Horizon 5, so and a bunch of other games. So I don't know how well they picked their window for this, but I'm sure the type of people that are going to be into this game are going to pick it up regardless. I'm excited to play this one because I think the first game had a lot of promise, but it just had a lot of bugs and issues at launch. So I'm hoping that this comes out and is a much cleaner experience, because I think the idea of a Jurassic Park, park building simulator on paper is a fantastic idea. And then we had a really good one back on PS2 called Jurassic Park Operation Genesis, which is actually a really solid game on PlayStation 2. One of the more expensive original Xbox games, actually, because it was really rare on that console. We've had examples of this being really good in the past. So I'm hoping for good things from this one. Again, Matt, did this thing do anything for you? Do you care about Jurassic Park? What do you think?
I like Jurassic Park fine. I'm just not a massive fan of these kind of park simulator games. So for me, it's cool. I'm glad Jeff Goldblum's in it. That sounds interesting. I don't know. This is probably a pass for me.
Yeah, probably. All right, but I know you're excited about this next one. Sifu got its release date. It will release on February 22nd, 2022. So the same week as Saints Row and a couple days after Horizon. Oh, man. Again, we saw another trailer for it. Gameplay looks really fun for this game. I'm excited to play it, but man, they could not have picked a worse window for this game. Like, I'm excited to play it, but I know in my heart of hearts I'm not going to get a chance to play it right away. But what do you think about this, Matt?
See, this for me seriously throws a wrench into my February because like I'm super excited for this game. The combat just looks so visceral. I love the kind of mechanic of, you know, as you die, you age, and everything about this game is just so far up my alley. So like what I worry that I'm going to have to do is start Horizon and then, you know, play a bunch of it, take a break for Sifu, and then end up coming back to Horizon because I'm so excited for this one. Everything that they've shown just looks so much fun. And the only thing that I'm nervous about is to how the combat will actually feel because it looks great. I'm just curious to go hands on with it and kind of, you know, feel how visceral it feels and see how well it comes together. But if this is going to be, if this kind of launches as it looks like it will, it looks dope. This is just going to add to a very packed February. I'm very excited that we have a date. I just wish it was not that date. Yeah.
I mean, you know, if they want to push it back a couple, well, the problem is they really don't have anywhere else to go, I think, at that point. Like, they could push it, like, they probably can't come out any earlier, and then if they push it later, you're going to probably up against, you know, Marvel Sun, or Midnight Suns and whatnot. So, I mean, yeah. I mean, it's going to be a packed, you know, couple of months to start the year for 2022. And if anything, I'm starting to think that maybe 2022 might be one of the busiest years for gaming in a long time because it sounds like all the games that were supposed to come out this year that got delayed are all coming out next year combined with the games that were already supposed to come out next year. It's just, it already sounds like it's going to start to be a stacked year. So, yeah, as much as I'm looking forward to Sifu, I know that's a game that I'm going to probably be waiting on until later. And then last thing that we wanted to touch on here, they announced and teased a new character for Super Monkey Ball because they've been announcing new characters from Super Monkey Ball, the new one, that is basically kind of a remake of the first two Monkey Ball games. And they announced some Yakuza characters. They announced Sonic and Tails. And now Persona is in Super Monkey Ball. Morgana is in Super Monkey Ball. Matt, I know you're excited about this, so take it away.
Ryan, I have never gone from not caring at all about a game to being this excited about it just based on guest characters alone. Super Monkey Ball is one that I used to play growing up. I used to play it at my friend's house. He was a big fan. And like, I have fun memories of it. I haven't touched it since, but this looks like it's going to be fun with with Kiryu from Yakuza being in it, with Morgana from Persona being in it. This went from like, yeah, whatever, it'll be out, to be like, no, I actually want to play this. This game looks fun. It'll be something that I can probably enjoy with my partner. And just being able to play as tiny chibi Kiryu with a massive head and Morgana is totally up my alley. So like I'm stoked. I never thought I'd be this excited about a Super Monkey Ball game, but here we are.
Yes, you're now one of us now, Matt. You're officially a Super Monkey Ball person. I actually really like the Super Monkey Ball games. I know Banana Blitz, which got a re-release not last year but the year before, was not a very good Super Monkey Ball game. That was kind of the last game that had come out for the series on the Wii when it launched. But the first two Super Monkey Ball games I know are very solid from playing them back on the GameCube. So I definitely think this is a game looking to put on your radar. And I think you're going to actually probably really enjoy this game. Like you said, I think it's a great couch co-op game or game to play with, you know, people like your significant other or someone else. So yeah, I think people are going to have a really good time with this game. And I'm really looking forward to Super Monkey Ball as well. And plus having these guest characters, I think it's just going to add to it. I really hope this also means that they add some kind of Persona music or music from Yakuza or some Sonic music as well with some of these guest characters as well. I think that would be really cool. They also showed off some more of the mini games as well that are kind of returning, like Monkey Target and whatnot, which all were in kind of the original release and are all really fantastic. Like the main thing about Monkey Ball for those that haven't really played it before is the mini games are really what sells kind of Monkey Ball for me. Like it's really like Mario Party mini games, but just done way better. So I definitely think it's going to be worth playing just for that. So check out Super Monkey Ball later this year. I think it's going to be really awesome. And yeah, that kind of wraps up kind of our stories from there. But I know I would be remiss if we kind of moved on before obviously asking, because we saw a bunch of trailers that we didn't have kind of release dates tied to or platforms tied to. So Matt, I already know what you're going to say to this question, but I'm going to ask you anyways. Was there one or two trailers that maybe stuck out to you that maybe we didn't talk about here? What did you think overall?
Yeah, the one that I went from just being like, what the hell is this, to, oh my God, I want to play it, is Dokkae V, which is coming from the team behind Black Desert Online. It's their South Korean developer. And from what we know, this was originally supposed to be an MMO that they have now changed into just an open world action adventure game. I love traversal, Ryan, in a game. If there's some good traversal, that just gets me amped. And this game, they showed off, like, you can like longboard around, you can ride around in the car, you have like an umbrella that you can fly around in. Like, there's just so much going on, and especially because also there's some creature capture mechanics in it where it looks like you'll be fighting alongside Pokemon-esque creatures in this kind of like massive, ridiculous world. The game looks incredibly beautiful. We have, like you said, no idea about platforms, so I don't want to go too long on about this, but I think the game just looks beautiful. The characters look a little lifeless. They look cute, but they have very much dead eyes.
Just like Black Desert. Just like Black Desert or anything else they've made.
Just there's nothing behind those eyes. There's nothing there, but the monsters look cute. The gameplay looks like it's going to be fun. The game's trailer did get a little framey at parts, especially when there was a lot going on screen. So as long as they kind of iron everything out and this game gets announced for PlayStation, I'm sure we'll be talking about it again because, yeah, I'm super stoked. I think it looks really cool. Did that trailer do anything for you, Ryan?
I was interested in it, but I know from playing Black Desert and other games from that developer that I'm not wild about their combat in their games. And frame rates are something they've always been, not great with either. Like Black Desert's frame rate during combat, like intense combat encounters, like, whew, it's not good. So, I mean, I'm cautiously optimistic about this one. I'm not, like, I think that everything you said about kind of the traversal and kind of the tone of it is cool. And I like the idea that it's kind of this monster catching game. I think that's interesting, especially because we don't see a lot of that on PlayStation as well. So I do think that it would be awesome to see this game on PlayStation. But I just knowing their previous games, it's harder for me to get excited for it than I know a lot of people were after seeing that trailer. But it went on and on and on forever. We had a good grasp of the gameplay because the trailer was 10 minutes long because that's what they do with their trailers. Because I don't know if you remember, I think it was Gamescom last year, where they had another trailer from the same developer called Crimson Desert, which was like this other like third-person action game from the same developer, and it was also 10 minutes long, the trailer. So yeah, they just tend to do long trailers. In fact, we saw 2,000% more gameplay from this than Saints Row. Just saying.
Literally.
Just saying.
Literally.
Yeah. So yeah, that was kind of the one that stood out to me too. Otherwise, for the most part, there wasn't too much else from Gamescom that I suspect will even be on PlayStation that really stuck out to me anyways from there. Again, we got a lot of Xbox stuff from Gamescom as well, but obviously we're not going to talk about that here. And we'll just move on because we had one last showcase this week, which was the Destiny 2 showcase. And I wanted to bring this in here. So Destiny 2's newest expansion, The Witch Queen, will launch on PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 on February 22nd, 2022. Additionally, starting today, Destiny 2 is fully cross-play across all platforms. So if you want to play with your friends on Xbox or PC and you're on PlayStation, you can play with your friends there, which I think is an awesome move for the game. Something it really needed kind of a long time ago, but it's finally here. But Matt, that date, again, it's just, there's too many games on that date, man. So at this point, again, this is another one that's probably going on the back burner for me. I'm really probably not going to play it when it comes out at launch, and then I'm really probably not going to want to jump into it later. So, Matt, what do you think about this news?
I'm kind of with you, Ryan. I played a lot of Destiny 2 when it first came out, and I liked the game for what it was at launch. I've heard it's gotten immensely better, and that the expansions are incredibly more fun and just much more well put together. So this is a game that like I've always thought about going back to because, like I said, I haven't played it since launch. I just don't know if I ever will. I appreciate what they're doing with it, and I think it looks cool. But just like you said, there's so much happening, especially around that time, and there's so much happening leading up to that point that I just don't know if I'll ever find the time to go back and kind of reinvest myself in that world for the players that are there. And like, crossplay is awesome for the players who want to play together across different, platforms. Mm-hmm. I just don't know if I'll ever have the time to kind of immerse myself back into this universe. I mean, I might be wrong. Maybe closer to the expansion, I'll jump back in. But as things stand, it's cool that it's happening. People seem very, very hyped for it. The Destiny community seems very excited, which is great. Yeah. I just don't know if it's going to be something that I'm going to spend time with.
For sure. Like it's something like, because for someone like me who's really into MMOs, who has a big MMO expansion coming out this fall with Final Fantasy 14 and Walker, and that's coming out pretty much when all the other games are coming out. That's the type of game that I know I will literally drop everything when that expansion comes out to play it, regardless of what happens. And I think Destiny players are going to be the same way with this. So even though there's a bajillion other games coming out that week, people who are really into Destiny 2 will really drop everything to play this newest expansion for Destiny, I think, which I think is awesome that they're getting it there. I just, for someone like me who maybe would want to try it out, even though I told Sean on the Xbox Drive yesterday, I've never really been into Destiny, but I've played every single Destiny expansion and at least tried to get into it every single time that a new expansion comes out. That I'm probably going to skip this one, but I might have actually tried it if it was in a slightly better window, but I'll probably be playing Saints Row that day instead. So there you go. Well, let's let some of our friends into the car with us. It is time for the carpool. So if you folks at home, if you want your question read on the carpool, there's a number of ways to do that. So of course you can submit your questions on Twitter at YouMeCapris. We basically put up a question post every single West Day, I guess. That's the new day of the week. Asking for questions as well. So you can leave your question there for us. You can also leave a question on our Discord, the YouMeCapris Discord, which is free to join. Just click the link in the show notes and head on over to the PlayStation Drive section to leave your question there any day of the week. It's totally cool. Or as well, you can leave your question on this YouTube video. If you're watching us on YouTube and you have a question for us, leave it in the comments and we will answer it on next week's show. Just like Dannohh at Dannohh12 did on Twitter. And he asked the question, thoughts on the Death Stranding director's cut footage? To me, it seemed helpful in some ways, but also odd in others due to how this footage makes you think what the game really is. Because I don't know if you saw the trailer for this, Matt, but they were really hyping. First of all, they were really hyping up Death Stranding as it was like the big thing of the showcase for whatever reason. But again, it's a Jeff Keighley show, so that's kind of to be expected. But it really they showed off a bunch of like new stealth game stuff elements, as well as a lot of combat for the game. And they showed off some of the package stuff, but it was very a low part of the trailer. Whereas we know from Death Stranding, it's kind of the complete opposite of that, to Dannoh's point. So what did you think about this trailer for Death Stranding Definitive Edition? And do you think it was misleading in any way?
I think it's just weird. Like I asked, because I never finished the original Death Stranding, so I asked my co-host about like, does all of this make sense in universe? Like this racing mode and this jump thing and like the ultra extreme bike flips and stuff. And he said no, not really. So for me, it kind of just seems like they thought about what can we do in a real release, and they kind of just threw everything at the wall and then just picked whatever was still on it. Like it's just confusing for me in the most Kojima way possible. Like it's cool that it's there, and like they're very much obviously focusing on, you know, their international leaderboards in this, with being able to, you know, replay boss fights to compete for best times and to be able to race for best times and all of these things to do for best times, which I know I'll never engage in. I think it's cool that it's there for somebody who's interested in it. I just feel like while Ghost of Tsushima director's cut, or sorry, expanded director's cut. It is director's cut. I'm getting confused on all this. Cut. Yeah, with all this name, all the different names, but the added stuff to that feels meaningful. Feels like it adds to the game. The stuff that's going into the Death Stranding director's cut just makes me a little bit confused, because I thought they would focus more on the actual mission stuff, which, like, granted, given by what the trailer looks like, there might not be that much actual story content. Yeah. Because like they showed off the one mission, which is the same mission that we saw with the reveal trailer. So I don't know how significant the actual story stuff will be. But everything else, I mean, it's cool that it's there, but none of it was a reason enough for me to want to go back and play it again, because like, I don't know, again, like you can jump off and you can float down now, which kind of seems to go against the core mechanic of the game. Now you have like a catapult to shoot your stuff further, which kind of seems to go against what the original intent of the game was. It's just very weird for me, Ryan. What about you? What do you think? So oddly enough, I am the person that you know that has never played Death Stranding at all. So I actually don't really have, like, the only thing I know about Death Stranding is what people have told me about it being basically a FedEx simulator where you're crossing America and delivering packages. And there's some combat, but for the most part, it's mostly delivering packages and walking around and listening to music and stuff like that. So, yeah, I think that it's odd that they're showing off
all of these different elements to the trailer. And yeah, like, especially because to your point, like it's really just showing the combat, for example, was from that same mission that we saw before. So I don't think there's going to be a significant content upgrade like we saw in Ghost, where like, you know, Ghost was like a 5 to 6 hour experience for the extra content. In this, I mean, it might be 1 or 2 missions from what we're kind of seeing, where there might be a stealth mission and there might be another combat mission, and that might just be it. Who knows? It's Kojima. It doesn't need to make any sense anyways. So, but I am actually going to be checking this one out because I never played Death Stranding before, and I'm actually excited to play it for the first time this way, which is something that I wish we talked about it on our Ghost of Tsushima review, where I'm like, man, it would have been awesome to kind of play Ghost of Tsushima for the first time this way. And now I'm going to be able to have a chance to do that with a game. So this might be the best way to play it. I don't know. We'll talk about that later, though, when Death Stranding Director's Cut is out, because I'm sure we might be talking about it in a more expanded sense when it comes out. So there you go. And last but not least, last question of the week comes to us from famous Seamus, the most famous of all the Seamuses over on Discord. He asked the question, do you think Horizon Forbidden West, now being a 2022 game, will impact PlayStation's holiday season? The answer, Mr. Seamus, is no. I don't think it affects it really in any way. Sure, obviously it would have been great to have it this holiday, but PlayStation, as we've talked about on the show a few times now, is that they're not the type of company that usually has a big fall release anyways. They're the company that either releases games at the beginning of the year or over the summer. That's kind of Sony's window for all their games. So for me, this actually, moving into 2022 in February, seems like the most natural Sony move, like more natural than trying to force it this holiday. Because, and again, like last year with the PlayStation 5 launch, that was just not the norm when we got Miles Morales and Demon's Souls launching along the side of the console. Because again, those were launching alongside the PlayStation 5 launch. That's not the norm that should be expected for PlayStation's holiday. But what do you think about this question, Matt?
Yeah, I'm with you, Ryan. I don't really think that it's going to change anything. Like, I still find it odd that they decided to drop Deathloop and Death Stranding both in September, when they could have easily pushed one of those to make that their holiday game. But like you said, they're not really worried about it anymore. They're going to probably rest on the strength of the indies and the third parties to kind of carry them through this holiday into what I'm sure will be very stacked next year. And they don't need to. I mean, the PlayStation 5 continues to be impossible to find. It continues to sell like crazy. There's no real reason for them to kind of gear up for this holiday. So I think between Deathloop and Death Stranding, they already have some stuff holiday adjacent. And I think that'll be enough. I think they'll rest on everything else. Especially
because I know people will they'll probably have more PlayStation 5s available this fall. So more people will be picking up the games that they didn't get to pick up earlier in the year, like Ratchet, like Demon's Souls, like Miles Morales, like Ghost of Tsushima. So I definitely think that software sales are still going to be really high, even for PlayStation first-party games. Like if the UK charts this week that came out when Ghost of Tsushima launched were any indication, like the top 4 games, 3 of the 4 of them were PlayStation 5 games, because Ratchet was there, Ghost of Tsushima was there, and Miles Morales was at the top there as well. So I anticipate more of that this fall from Sony. So they don't really need to launch their own fall game. Like they're going to already do pretty well off the games that are already there.
Plus, Ryan, there's a dark horse in this fall season. We might actually get some abandoned gameplay trailer.
Oh, get out of here with that. Just no. I thought we stopped talking about abandoned, Matt. You're ruining the show, Matt. But yes, all hail our gods over at Blue Box Studios for bringing us a fall game. Anyways, Matt, we got to go. But before we go, Matt, plugs go.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at burnout_Matt, and you can find my content over at youtube.com/burnoutbrighter for a bunch of podcasts, reviews, and other cool stuff.
Very nice, my friend. As for me, you can find me on Twitter at Ryan Turford. You can also find us on Twitter at YumiCapriz. You can also find us on Instagram at YumiCapriz as well as you can find us on YouTube, youtube.com/YumiCapri, and on podcast services around the globe. So, for Matt Sawinski, I am Ryan Turford. This has been episode 15 of the PlayStation Drive. And we out. The PlayStation Drive is fueled by patrons over at patreon.com/YumiCapri. And I want to say thank you to each and every one of our patrons from the bottom of my heart from your support across all of our content. And let's start by thanking our CaPremium producers, Dallas Ford, Lee Navarro, the fearless leader of the Phoenix Overdrive Extra Life team, and Johnathan Brown over at youtube.com/PM Entertainment. Our platinum producers, Robby Miller and TruckerSloth. And our gold members, ARGO, Brendan Myers, Dallas Robbins, Emily O'Kelly, Heather Boney, James Johnson, Joel Brooks, Jose Jimenez, Mac Time, Benjicong, Marcus O'Neill, RJ Kern, Dannohh, Skinny Matt, Mr. and Mrs. Nasty Boots, Fuji, and Xavier Reyes. Thank you all for all of your support.